Hi, everyone. Welcome to How High Velocity Teams Adapt Planning When Engineering Gets 10x Faster. I'm Haley Bryant, a partner at Hustle Fund, and I'm so excited to welcome Doug Peete today. Doug is the Chief Product Officer at Atono, and he's built and scaled product from the early internet days through today's AI explosion. I have so much more to share about Doug's background, but while we're waiting for folks to join the stream, Doug, I feel like everyone is building stuff with AI right now. Where are you in your own process of up-leveling your work and personal life with AI?
So I totally agree. With everybody is trying to figure out the whole AI game. One of the things that's interesting about Atono is we're at heart we're a software project management tool. So a lot of the customer base that I'm talking to, I get to talk to a lot of people who are also sort of living and breathing the same problem, and we're all being asked to use AI to build as much AI into our applications to do AI things as possible. So I think we're all feeling the pressure, and I think I haven't seen so much change in the software market in the 30 years that I've been actively building products. I'm dating myself. I probably shouldn't mention that I'm a product of the 1900s, but yeah, 30 years of watching software be built, and I just haven't seen as much change as we're having in the last couple of years. So it's exciting. I find myself spending quite a bit of time. I personally use Claude quite a bit. I know we all have our favorite models. My role here at Atono as a product creator means that I'm doing a lot of product management work. Usability reports into me as well. And so as we're designing and building new features, I love Claude. I work with Gemini, ChatGPT. Every time a new model comes out, I try and do vibe mockups. Like I like to build out prototypes, and I find Claude is just the best at it. So that's
And what specifically is it about Claude? Are there specific things that it does really well compared to some of these other tools?
Yeah, well, so one, I would say it's great conversationally. It does a nice job of, it always tells you how brilliant you are, which is nice to hear.
Not bad, not bad.
But then it's not afraid to come back and say, hey, what about this? What about that? I think there's some ambiguity here. I think you're missing some of the security concerns. So it's great from a conversational standpoint. But again, for my own personal bent, probably for the last 20 years, I've been fortunate enough to not just run product management organizations, but I've always had the UX organization as well. And I think Claude does the best job of helping out product managers have a UX companion to help provide some of that initial work. I still think that UX teams do by far and away the best work when it comes to creating the actual definitions for development. But to start with the prototypes and to get to where you can convey an idea, show that idea to everybody, get the buy-in, I think Claude's great at it. When I look at the stuff that comes out of Gemini, the quality of the mockups themselves isn't as good. There's not as much conversation that happens in building the answer. And ChatGPT mostly doesn't build prototypes. It wants to just build. Oftentimes, it'll build more of just an image, not something that's interactive. And one of the things that I'm a big believer in is that static pictures don't actually help build out proper user experiences. User experiences is about the motion. It's the transitions. It's the progressive disclosure of information. How do you not overwhelm somebody with content straight away, but get them the information they need to make good decisions? And so that's where I think ChatGPT falls down, because it doesn't build as good of a prototype workflow.
Well, Doug, I love that you have 30 plus years of experience building products online, and you're still in the weeds, trying out every new model as it comes out and forming really strong opinions, both yourself, with your team, and as you're working with your hundreds of customers in product management. Quick context on Doug. Before Doug joined Atono, he was, or founded Atono, was CPO at Everbridge, where he built product across critical event management, digital operations, and more. Everbridge purchased X Matters, former company, for over $200 million, whereas the chief product officer, he scaled product, UX, and marketing and helped lead the company through the acquisition. What I'm so excited about to feature with Doug today is the perspective that he brings, understanding something many teams are just waking up to. The bottleneck in building has shifted. It's no longer just about engineering speed. We've seen that 10x, 100x plus over the last year. It's context, it's coordination, it's making sure everyone, humans and AI alike, have the right information to make smart decisions and act. And if you're just joining us, again, I'm Haley Bryant, partner at Hustle Fund, investing in companies at the absolute earliest stages. And we think about this problem a ton as we build for ourselves and with our portcos. So in today's conversation, we're going to talk about how context gets lost as teams scale, how modern product teams are able to 10x their impact without creating a ton of chaos, and how Atono is actually helping to solve some of these problems by building what they call the context layer for product teams, bringing decisions, code, releases, customer insights, and more into one place, so velocity does not slow down as you grow. So if you're a founder or product leader trying to move faster in AI, we're so happy you're here. If you're just curious, that's great too. We'll answer questions throughout, so please drop them from whatever platform you're tuning in through, and we'll do our best to answer them. Doug, we talked before jumping on about how much things have changed and this idea of humility. And you kind of demonstrated that with your use of AI products and just experimentation and ability to think from first principles. So maybe paint a picture. How has the role of an early product team changed in just the last 6 to 12 months?
Yeah, so I think it depends on the origination of a product and who the original product creator is. Again, I get to see a variety of different companies, and the initial idea around a problem that they're solving. Sometimes it comes from a developer who saw a problem and said, "I know how to fix it," and they fixed it. They created that kernel, and then you start building an organization around it. And I think there's very different instincts when you have a developer created company than when you have a company that maybe comes from somebody else in the organization who's seen the problem, and then they're vibe coding their way into a solution and then starting to try and build the engineering organization up from there to make it for real. I think one of the really interesting opportunities with AI is the opportunity to extend one's skill sets. One of the things that we were really focused on with Atono from the get-go is enabling the whole cross-functional product team to be able to interact together. Working at small organizations and big organizations, I've seen different power plays around who makes the calls and who's able to do what. I'm a big fan of Marty Kagan. I don't know if you're familiar with some of his books, Inspired, and the way that he, and the way that he attempts to bring the whole cross-functional product team into the problem solving, because for a while there, it was product managers, product owners that were making all the big decisions. Developers were not really being enabled to bring their ideas and their decisions. I think Marty really blew that up with the way he recommends that you run things. But in this day and age of AI, I think it's great because the cross-functional product team can be you. Like AI can act as the other members of the cross-functional product team to help empower you to get stuff done. So whereas I think it was a lot more difficult for a developer product creator to get past that initial, like, yes, I've developed something and here it is, but now how do I grow it? And how do I take it from something that maybe appealed to a team, but ultimately, I want to take this big, I want it to be enterprise grade. Like, how do I get it there? I think that it's a lot easier. I shouldn't use that word easier. It gets product managers in trouble, but I do think there's a lot more help that now you can get from AI to help provide you with PM influence, with UX influence, even when it's a talking robot that's doing it for you. The quality of recommendations that I see coming out, and this is from my perspective as a product manager, when I'm using, so I don't have a UX background. I'm a computer engineer from Cal Poly, so I'm more of a dork. But in terms of my UX, it's all been from the streets type of stuff. But so I use UX a lot to prop up I use AI a lot to prop up my UX skills. It's fantastic for that. And it also keeps me honest on my PM skills. And so when I watch the developers who I'm now encouraging, write the story, like play with that, take that idea that you have, write an epic, break it down into the different stories that are parts of it. AI really helps them get there.
Totally. Well, it's interesting because you're talking about a few things there, like the root of the idea matters a lot. Is it coming out of a technical person or organization, or maybe non-technical or more of a business user? Everyone can build faster, and also everyone is building. So almost this idea that early product teams are that's the entire organization all of a sudden, which has, I would imagine, a bunch of impacts, positive and negative. So with everyone able to build more, build faster, and everyone building, what are you seeing in terms of the tool stack, the evolution of the tool stack, and how are people dealing with this explosion of AI on these early product teams?
Yeah, so right now, it seems to be, I'd say, a hodgepodge. I don't think people have cracked the code. When I look at different organizations, depending on how big or small they are, and who the movers and shakers are, there's oftentimes a few tremendously clever individuals that figure out how to piece together all the different things that they need. What do I need from an Agents MD standpoint? Claude rules, hit all the different places where context can live in a technical fashion to help understand the code base, the coding practices, the styles, all those kinds of things. I see that being handled in different ways, and usually it's not even consistent across the organization, depending on how big the organization is. But I do think that engineers being engineers, that they are actively solving that problem. One of the interesting things, though, is we throw the word context around a lot these days, and everyone's, we've gone from prompt engineering to context engineering. What is that? And I think it's a bigger problem than just saying context. What kind of context? Because a lot of the context that I'm talking about here is more the technical context. How do I take things and manifest them in the code world? But where really focusing a lot on Atono is the product context. Who's the product for? What's it trying to do? What are the things that it currently does? If you can define that kind of information and then put it in a format that an LLM understands, your conversations around your feature set and the things you're trying to build and the things you're trying to do for your personas are much better understood by the LLM.
Yeah.
So we're personally at Atono working on how do you extract that product context from products that already exist? What are the different sources of it? User guides, API documents, the websites, all of those tend to define the vocabulary, the features, the product anatomy, not how it's written, but what's the problem that it's trying to solve. And that is product context. And that's the nut that we're cracking at Atono.
Yeah, so interesting and amazing. You're able to help take almost what's implicit in some ways and make it more explicit within the system, within Atono, to make it accessible for more people and help them with this product context, not just the technical context. Where are you seeing context breaking within teams? Are there specific specific things that you're seeing?
Yeah, again, along the lines of the different sort of context that's out there, part of what we do with Atono is features that folks wouldn't expect. So, we have the ability to make stories and build roadmaps and all the stuff you'd expect to be able to do software project management, write the specs, make sure stuff gets built. But how do you decide what gets built? And so there are some interesting things that people wouldn't think of as being part of that world. One of them is feature engagement metrics brought all the way right into the stories. So, there's a lot of tools out there to help you understand who's clicking on what, but that information is usually siloed off somewhere, and the licenses to get to it are expensive. I won't name names here with the different solutions that are out there, but suffices to say, at the different organizations that I've worked at or that I interact with, people are usually like, oh, we have 10 licenses for so-and-so analytics platform. And that's not usually enough. That's not very much. It's usually going to like more the maybe a product owner, maybe product marketers, but it's not getting all the way back to the team. And so back to empowering that whole team, being able to pull all of that engagement information back into the place where that feature was defined and everybody worked on it. That's different. That's
Totally.
different. So you can go into a story in Atono, and then you can see for this story, this is now a production feature, and now here's the adoption of it.
Oh, cool. I would love to see that. I don't know. No pressure. I'm not trying to put you on the spot to do it live, but yeah, I would love to see that context in action. It seems like it enables people to move a lot faster.
Yeah, at some point I could share my desktop. That's always fun. I have 2 daughters, and they seem to know when I'm doing a demo in front of people because that's when all the TikTok messages start coming in at the same time. But yeah, I'd be happy to pull open the product a bit if that helps show some of this stuff.
Yeah, that would be cool. I mean, so you're talking about, on the one hand, context breaking because it's trapped across a bunch of different tools, or tools that maybe are expensive for super early stage startups to afford. We also see teams struggle because context it's not written down anywhere, especially
Right.
the pace folks are moving. Maybe it's trapped inside of the founder, the founding engineer, or product manager. Like, what are you seeing there, and how are you helping teams solve for that?
Yeah. So a few different things. So fundamentally, a lot of the permissions based stuff in Atono is designed to encourage collaboration. We expect stories to be living. We expect stories to evolve throughout the development cycle. Like that's so I've been mentoring product managers for, again, decades, and that's one of the things where I see stuff really falls down. Product managers don't take on a product creator role where they're trying to define what they want and what their baby should look like, and then even if they do, it goes to engineering, and then in the implementation there's decisions that are made around, hey, we could do this slightly differently, but it'll make it faster, better, stronger, whatever, and that information doesn't make its way back into the stories. And in the end, you get a feature, and 6 months later, a bug comes in saying, "Hey, is this a problem?" And people are trying to figure out, wait, does it work as designed or not? Is it a bug, or is that what we intended? And the acceptance criteria just does not reflect what got shipped. So making sure that everybody can get into and collaborate around the story, making sure that the story is evolving throughout the life cycle is a key part of capturing context. Now, as we move into the agentic world, there are a number of capabilities within Atono to help capture the agentic context. So we have a concept that is an AI scratchpad that allows for both AI-based investigation of story implementation and bug solutioning. So think of it as like the equivalent of when you do the plan mode in the various coding tools, that information, where does it go?
Yeah.
It oftentimes is somewhat ephemeral. Like the engineer looks at it and says, okay, I approve, go make it so. But shouldn't that be captured? Like those are effectively like design records for why the implementation was done the way that it was. Sometimes there's even clues in there around why the recommendation is to not do something, which is as important as why you do something. And so providing this AI scratch pad, both for the investigation notes as well as the implementation summaries to explain what was done, providing a central repository for that. It's helpful for a single developer as they may be experimenting with different models and or different tools in order to affect a change.
Yep.
But it gets even that much more helpful when you have multiple team members working on the same story, or 6 months later, again, there's a bug now and you're trying to fix something. Well, you need all of this context to be able to figure out what's broken, what maybe went wrong, and how could it be done better. So that sort of agentic memory is quite helpful.
And are you seeing teams most well, I guess with Atono specifically, actually, and maybe you'll show us this coordination piece and how you're bringing context in the same space into the same space. Are teams able to continue with existing workflows and it all gets consolidated in Atono? Are they kind of shifting over to this single, almost context layer, and doing more work on product inside of Atono? And I'm also curious about the product decision there, like how you approached it as a product person leading product people.
Yeah. So again, I would love to just say I have the answer, and this is the answer. And I mean, every time I open my email, I've got 6 Medium articles and 14 subreddits, all with people telling me they have the answer. And I don't feel like I can do that, and I don't believe the people that are saying they have all the answers. So I am definitely actively working with all of these different organizations and seeing where they're tripping, trying to figure out what are just like process things that they need to work on, but then what's missing from the tooling, because the world is changing. Where we see the kinks in the process is changing around, and I see some organizations where they are able to generate code faster than they're able to generate the requirements for the code. I see other places where the kink is the exact opposite. They've fully adopted AI in terms of the design pipelines, and so the PMs, the UX, they're kicking out all of these features, but the engineering organization isn't moving along fast enough.
Yeah.
So it's the answer is, I think, pretty variable by organization.
Yeah, I appreciate the candor and the humility as well, that it's not there's one definitive answer. It's very much based on the team and the needs of the team and how they work. I guess thinking about Atono specifically, is it built to adapt around how teams already work, knowing that you maybe aren't going to be super opinionated about what the right answer is, or is it okay? No, you have to come in here and do everything in a single pane of glass.
Yeah, that's a great question. So back to the basics and blocking and tackling. The product takes and implements fairly dogmatic versions of Scrum and Kanban. I mean, these are the way we get things done in this current day and age. And so it does some pretty unique stuff as it relates to observing team behaviors. Again, whether they're a Scrum team or a Kanban team, it's dynamically calculating cycle time based off of the different stories and bugs that are being worked on, the different sizes of those for each and every team. And so from a planning standpoint, it is pretty innovative in its ability to help people plan in an agile sense. Like uh, one of the worst experiences that I had as a product manager is I worked at a place that used SAFe. Are you familiar with Scale and Agile?
Oh, I'm not. Tell us more.
Well, I don't want to say too much about it other than if you see it, run, because
Okay, fair.
it's scrum fall. It is not agile. It's a way of saying agile without being agile. So don't do it. If anyone out there is trying to get you to do it, don't do it.
Okay.
But with that said, I think being able to be really light on one's feet, to be able to quickly come up with the different ideas, quickly bring them to users. I mean, that really is the end game. So how do you not spend you know hours and hours doing planning up front before your next iteration? To me, that's a real mistake, because you can spend as much time planning as you want, but the things that blow up estimations aren't all those things that you thought about. They're the things that you can't think about. They're the things that you don't run into until you start getting after it. So what's the point of spending 20 hours in planning? It's no more effective than typical agile planning, shirt sizing, average velocity, cycle time in the Kanban world. And using that kind of information is just as accurate as when I've seen teams sit down and spend their initial day or two of a sprint planning.
Okay, awesome. Maybe we'll shift into seeing the product in a moment, but first, there's a great question about UI UX. So, can you do a UI or UX audit inside of Atono?
Mm. No, it's not. It's not built to do audits. It's built to capture the outputs right now. But that definition of product context, what your product does, is equally a definition of like your features and your vocabulary and those kinds of things, but also your user interface and being able to instruct AI, both as it relates to making the new designs, as well as codifying and building the stuff, is a big function of the UX work. And I again haven't solved this problem yet. But I think there's a pretty interesting world here with the Atonos and the Linears and the Jiras having the specifications. Figma kind of ate the world in the UI mock-up design building world. But I mean, I don't know if this is okay or not. Figma's expensive. Like, that's the big thing that I think we all keep running into, and they keep raising the prices on us. And so, what really does this design world look like if it does take the stories and it takes the mock-ups in order to be able to inform AI to make the right decisions? How is that going to consolidate? So definitely interested in solving that problem, but not there yet.
That makes sense. Well, let's talk more about what Atono does before we kind of see the product in action. So, while every team's exact process is different, I guess what are sort of the primitives? What are the key pieces of information that enable a great planning process, and then how does that come together inside of your product?
Yeah, so it's going to be, I think, the same that I see in a number of different places. Ultimately, the ideas that folks come up with need to be refined. So I have an idea. How do I refine that idea? How do I give it some shape? Once that idea has some shape, then how do I break it down into different components of work? I'm a big believer in trying to. Are you familiar with the Invest mnemonic around story creation?
Please share.
What's that?
Please share.
So it is a way of evaluating how good a story is built. And so each of the letters stands for an important characteristic of a story. Stories should be independent. Stories should be valuable. Stories should be estimatable. Stories should be small. So when you look at all of these different things, they are trade-offs, though. Like how much value you can deliver and how small a story can be. Those are often in argument with each other. However, I'm a big believer in that the smallest change increments that you can create, the easier it is to test, whether it's humans testing, AI is testing. It's easier to test, it's easier to implement, it's easier to define, it's easier to deploy, it's easier to roll back. So I don't know where folks throughout the portfolio are in their experience in that and how often they're deploying. But one of the things that was very interesting experience for me at X Matters was that we had gone from deploying like once a month to many times a day, and there was all this fear around how is that going to work? We're going to have incidents everywhere where the bugs are just going to fly because of all of this change. And it turned out to be the exact opposite. I mean, we had empirical data that showed, and I'm not going to say because we deployed faster, that's why those things went down. Certainly there were other controls in place as we were learning what to do, but smaller change increments were actually really important for us to be able to have a very reliable, 4.9 uptime type system. And so invest plays into that. How do I find the smallest increment of value that I could bring, put that into a story, make sure that goes through the development process and get it out the door and keep going? Because ultimately, our role as a product team should be bringing value to our customers.
That's a great tidbit and feels so relevant to today. So both the framework for invest, so look that up. Hopefully we'll get to write an article about this and quote you and how you've used it previously, Doug. But in kind of shifting to these incremental steps forward and making a lot more changes, deploying more frequently and building a more resilient process through that. Thank you. We have a couple of questions in the chat. So the first one, we'll actually start with Matt's question. He says, maybe off topic, but as a fellow 1900er, there was always an idea person versus execution person debate. And usually the balance is in favor of execution. And Matt's speaking as an idea guy. So he's curious how you think that balance is changing in the world we're in today.
Yeah, interesting question. I don't know. I've been pretty lucky with some of the folks I've been able to work with. Like I worked with Craig Federighi for a while. He's at Apple now. I work with him at SAP Ariba. He's both, like there are these unicorn folks that are out there that can do both. But I don't know. I mean, I think it really comes back to what AI is capable of doing for the idea people. It's going to blur that division between an idea and an executor. Especially for small companies. I assume the type of companies that Hustle Fund is interested in, a lot of it is about that great idea and being able to bootstrap it and see it work and prove the value of it. And once you achieve that initial value, then how do you scale it is where the execution folks can come in and take over from there. But I think that's a much farther journey into the product path for the idea person than they've ever had the opportunity before. Like there's no reason why somebody with a great idea can't pick up Vercel or Claude Code or any of a number of the scale of coding to prototyping tools that are out there and just start making things. Like it's a real maker community. So
no, I agree. I think what we're seeing, not even for the founding team necessarily, but just looking at open job descriptions and product management, increasingly, you're not just the idea person, you're not just coordinating teams, you're actually taking an idea, building the MVP, and then you're going and figuring out, okay, how do we actually implement this and what's the back end structure with the engineering team? But just to your point, going much further down that continuum from idea to execution. At Hustle Fund, we believe that, what hustle means is great execution meets high velocity. It's an interesting moment because I was just reading a Packy McCormick article about this and the age that we're in and the need for strategy, which a lot of maybe early stage VCs are almost allergic to. But I think it's balancing, the big vision, and then to your point, Doug, these incremental steps. Like, what's the little thing you can do, the bite you can take today over the next few hours to keep moving towards that bigger vision. But this is great. There are a couple of other comments in the chat. Maybe before we jump into this question,
that I think is interesting. I mean, that speaks to like the initial seed of an idea. But I think for the companies that are a little bit farther along, the idea of product bets, like, well, we're here, but what would happen if we did this adjacency, or what would happen if we spun whatever the core technology and use it in a different way? I think AI allows us to explore that much faster. See if it's
and when you've said seed a couple of times, Doug, I've thought of good strategy, bad strategy, and kind of the kernel of an idea and where strategy comes from. But I totally agree with you, and it's so cool to get to have this conversation with you in this moment. Before we jump into other questions, I guess, are there parts of the platform that you think might be helpful for folks to take a closer look at, to see how you're thinking about this coordination problem and how you're building around the hundreds of product teams that you're already working with today?
Yeah, so I can show some stuff if that's helpful. Again, I'll put the same disclosure statement at the beginning. I'm sharing my full desktop, so
Oh yeah, no worries. Thank you for the disclaimer. And while you're getting that pulled up, comment in the chat. Execution will always be more important than idea. Completely agree. It comes down to who's going to grind it out day after day, week after week. And you're right. The bottleneck does seem to be shifting from engineering to first distribution, and I would argue in many ways adoption. It's like getting people not just to try it, but to like stick with a product, which of course is different depending on the industry you're in, the customer you're selling to. But it's a wild shift that's happening.
What's the definition of execution in this? Like, I hate to get esoteric or whatever on this, but like, is execution actually implementing, displaying the idea? Is it scaling the idea and getting that customer base? What is execution?
Yeah, execution is different things at different phases of the product journey. So this idea, like, nail it before you scale it. Can you build something that your initial customer loves and is using on a repeated basis? You don't want to jump right into distribution before you validated that you have something that works. So execution changes a lot. One of the ways that we measure execution is around experiments and having this list of ideas and things you want to try around whatever goal that you're moving towards, which is why I think it's so important to be able to have this strategy piece built into the context layer, so you can always remember, like, what's the goal? Because I think one of the challenges we see often with early teams is drinking out of the fire hose, so many ideas flying through, shiny object syndrome. And why we couple execution with velocity is this idea of focus. It's not about just doing a lot of things as quickly as possible. It's really understanding, okay, what is like the highest priority thing relative to, cost and impact, and to actually move the ball forward for where we are in the product today, in the company today, which it can be tough. So I think tools are a big part of solving that problem.
Yeah. So again, I'm more of the geeky side of product management as opposed to the MBA side of it. But I find some tools that aren't conventional software tools, but they're the business tools, to be pretty helpful for the entire team to be aware of. What is your ideal customer profile? Make sure that your ICP is well defined. It makes a huge difference in terms of where you're investing. If you're trying to sell to smaller companies, it's a much different proposition than bigger companies or the government or some of these other kinds of things. How many folks do you think are going to be using your software in any given organization? It impacts the implementation, the UI, the hosting, it impacts the pricing, it impacts the type of features that should be worked on. So I'm a big believer in making sure everybody knows what the ICP is. I also like the big, hairy, audacious goal definitions being well known by the organization. Ideally, some opportunity for everybody in the organization to have some input into what that big, hairy, audacious goal looks like. So it's like, hey, what is that Mars landing that we're looking to do? So that we can, have this big vision, but then we can come back to, well, then what do we do in the moment to help get there? So I do think there are a little bit of things that are outside of just the blocking and tackling of software building that's important to get execution right.
Totally. Wow. I thought we were going to go, it was going to be divergent. We're going to have to end the webinar early. Like, oh no, we're so misaligned, but I'm with you. And I'm nerdy about customers. My experience in startups was all around customer success and dabbling in product. So yeah, just aligning back with their goals, their business outcomes. Like, how are we trying to be as helpful as possible? But amazing. Before we take more questions, do you want to share your screen? Are we TikTok free?
I mean, I'd love to. Yes. No, I can't guarantee TikTok free that, but I do have a solid do not disturb on. Hopefully the kids don't break through it. But with any luck,
Perfect. We can see your screen.
Perfect. All right. So I'm in Atono right now, and as mentioned, at heart, it is designed for software project management. You can see a bunch of workflows over on the left to be able to do things like refine your stories, to be able to triage bugs, to be able to build out your roadmaps. I mentioned some of the less standard stuff around feature flags. Actually, I don't think I mentioned feature flags. I mentioned feature engagement. But we also have native feature flag capabilities built right into the product. And the importance of these two together, feature engagement versus feature flags, is if you're deploying fast and you are placing a fair number of product bets, you need to be able to control what the users are seeing. You need to get code into production all the time, but maybe you have features that aren't ready or they need to go to specific places. So making sure that you have feature flags. And again, this is another cost sort of a thing. It is pretty common that the feature flag tools that I've seen out there are so expensive that you don't get licenses for everybody. And to me, that's kind of crazy because this is the engineering team's ability to reduce risk in their deployment. By feature flags, let me help deploy code without a feature accidentally getting out the door. So making sure that you have feature flags and everybody can get to their control is quite important.
And is that one of the key kind of bottlenecks that you're actually seeing as we kind of coming back to the idea around everyone building more and faster? Are you seeing more challenges and opportunities for feature flags?
Yeah, so certainly from the basic risk reduction standpoint, it's very important to be able to put changes in the product behind feature flags. Again, it helps you deploy fast. It helps you be able to selectively enable features for the folks that need them. Helps you identify if there is a problem, then you don't roll back. You just feature flag off, you fix forward, you feature flag back on. So showing that kind of all playing out, this is a story in Atono.
Is this real? Are you a fan of electronic music production, Doug?
Well, so the co-founder, Tobias Duncron, has a huge collection of cool sits and a music studio to play with them. I actually, I love music, but try as I might, I don't have the talent after numerous guitar lessons and things like that. I'm not
Who
good at
knows? Next vibe code project. I think something may come together. But
Yeah,
okay, I was just curious.
I even need my own voice auto-tuned just to be able to sing. So
Same.
you're poking me in a spot that hurts, Haley.
I'm sorry.
But yeah, this example story here, we have editors where we help learn the different personas in the system. So when you construct the user story format, it helps prompt you for that, guide you through it. These are different acceptance criteria. They're first-class citizens, which is very different than Jira, where your acceptance criteria is just usually like a rich text area. That means you can do things in here like put deep links to them, attach files to acceptance criteria, add comments to acceptance criteria. This one already has one, so you can see some comments that are in here. But very unique to Atono out here on the right, you can see there's a feature flag that is attached to this story. And so I can click on this feature flag. I can see the status of it in my different environments. If I want to get more specific than just the environment level, then I can start tapping into specific customers or specific end user locations to be able to turn off and on the feature flag. So all of this feature flag behavior is built just right into the core components. It's not limited by license. All of your developers can have access to putting feature flags into their code. Now, there are permissions.
Can I ask a question? What's the Slack channel on the right?
Yeah.
Right
So we allow you to associate to existing Slack channels or make your own. That allows us to be able to understand what's being talked about. So a form of context monitoring for, what are people talking about the Slack channel. It also allows us to, as there are state changes with feature flags, to be able to post those to the Slack channel. Part of, again, that Marty Kagan mindset that I've had over the years is that in some of the organizations I've worked in, engineers get treated like mercenaries, like go code this, and then you're done, now go code something else. They have no view into, oh, look, my feature is now live in the sandbox, now it's live in production, and now these customers are using it. Part of being able to see that evolution is we allow you to, as the changes to the feature flag are made, they're pumped into the Slack channel so that the team working on it can say, oh, look, it's on in production now.
Yeah, amazing.
And then, as I mentioned, feature engagement is built right into the platform. So if I look down here, I can see this is a story that's already out in the wild, and it is being adopted by customers. So I can see the different customers that are using it. I can see this, like this would be the kind of thing you might look at as a product manager or product owner saying, hey, you know what, I need to get some feedback. We're thinking about making some changes. So who are my top customers that I should talk to? Or if you want to look at adoption and how it might be playing out over time, maybe you have a customer meeting that you're getting ready to go into, what's happening with a particular customer that you're trying to see, then you can look and see, hey, how are they trending, trending up, trending down? All of this is just built right into the platform. And another interesting thing that helps drive all of this is we've got an SDK that you embed to be able to get the feature flags and the feature engagement behaviors. But we also have a Chrome extension. And that Chrome extension, this story is in support of building this platform. So back to your question about building digital music, our sample application that we build with Atono is this virtual vintage website. And with it, folks can basically play with synthesizers over the internet to be able to try different synthesizers that maybe they can't afford. And when I'm on a website that's built with Atono and I have the Chrome extension installed, it's going to know, hey, look, I'm on a website and I know this is a Atono built application. I then have access to be able to do things like report bugs or manage the feature flags or be able to define what it is that I consider to be feature engagement that I want to track. So right now, that story that we saw is in support of being able to allow you to share your presets. And if I came here and I'm like, oh no, there's a bug, it's not working right, I can file the bug, but I also can say, hey, let's flip off this feature flag. Let's get this right. So if I flip that off and then I refresh this, then you'll see that feature just went away.
Wow.
So if I go fix it, then I can come back in here, I can turn it back on. One of the things that I might want to do, as I was saying, was track the feature engagement of this. How often are people using this feature? The Chrome extension lets a developer can just put in the instrumentation using the SDK. But if a product owner or product manager who's not in the code is trying to do it, they can just click right here and say, hey, look, I would like to define the click maps that I consider to be feature engagement. So you can say, hey, let's start mapping. And what I want to do is I want to map the activity into one of my stories in Atono. This was the story that we were looking at. And then now it says, hey, I'll record your next click. So go click on what it is. If I come over here, I say it's whenever I click on this, then it comes back and says, all right, I inspected that element. And is there a unique identifier like a test ID, something like that? Yes, there is. I'll take the ID. And if I accept the mapping, that means now when anybody clicks on this feature here, it's going to record that back into this engagement metrics that.
Wow.
So you can do it with the SDK, but we've also made this as something that even the product owners can do without any coding whatsoever.
Really incredible. Thank you so much for giving us a tour. Doug, have you been in sales in your various roles? I know you've done a lot of product, you're technical, you keep talking about how nerdy you are. It seems like there's a little bit of marketing in your background.
So I have been in sales, but I also think what I usually counsel my product managers is they should be some of the best salespeople possible in their organization. Like I want to see them getting pulled into sales calls. I think it's pretty important for them to both have that excitement and enthusiasm to act as a proper product creator, but also to help teach the sales team, where the different value points are.
Totally. Well, I think your demoing ability is not just a factor of your background, but in the problems you're solving for your customers. It's clear you've lived these problems and seen a lot of sprawl across teams, and you seem genuinely very excited about what you're building. And I can see why. Multiple wow moments, and I'm not even deep in product anymore, although increasingly getting back in. And I'm wondering if the Hustle Fund deal we have for portfolio companies extends to our fund. So maybe we can try out Atono too. But part of the reason I was asking about sales is in the chat, Matthew mentioned he's building a pretty complex product. He's bootstrapping currently. And one of the challenges he's having in navigating the ecosystem is trying to differentiate between people who are kind of selling a product versus solving a real problem. So I guess as a product manager yourself, how have you thought about evaluating tools, prioritizing needs, while having that kind of business cap on and preserving runway?
Yeah, so again, this is one of those highly variable situations. When you have well-established products that you start having different inputs like analysts, and maybe talk with Gartner and Forrester and that sort of stuff. Versus when you are establishing a market yourself. For the smaller companies, I think it is important to get customers as soon as you can. Again, our job is to deliver value as fast as we can and continuously as we can to our customer base. You got to have customers to do that. You have to have customers to deliver value to customers, but then to define what is the value and to be able to continue to build and continue to give them value, you have to have that conversation going. So the figuring out how to get that initial customer, by hook, by crook, by working with your like network of people to get them to use your product, attending conferences, and using that as a networking mechanism. These are all, I think, mechanisms. Meetups. There's usually a number of meetups in any given area that are in our subject matter area. If you can find them, get there and start talking with people. But I think that's the most important thing, is to be able to think like who your ideal customer is, so that you can then refine what that ideal customer profile looks like, and then carry that forward.
Thank you. And I think, Matt, on your point around just figuring out what to spend money on, one of the points, or one of the things that is helpful sometimes in working with, whether it's a VC fund or another ecosystem partner, is the benefits they're able to extend because of some of their economies of scale. Working with great partners like Atono that have said, look, like, we know it's expensive to get started. Here's how you can get started at a much lower cost than our sort of advertised price. If you define this as, your biggest problem, something that's kind of blocking you from that scale or getting that next customer. So, Doug, this has been so fun. I'm so grateful that you took the time. I guess, what's the best way to both stay in touch with you and for folks to learn more about what you're building?
Yeah, absolutely. So I actually will be at the what's the event, March 4th through 6th, that Hustle Fund
The
is
Founder Summit, the Founder Retreat?
Yeah, I'll be at that Founder Retreat. Grab me if folks are at that. Grab me. Otherwise, I'm always happy to talk with other folks that are trying to get things going. So I'm on LinkedIn. I can make myself available in whatever mechanisms that you typically use, Haley.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I'll drop Doug's LinkedIn in the chat here. We'll drop Atono's website as well. And we're so grateful to everyone who took some time to learn more about building in this very chaotic and very exciting moment with Doug. I hope you'll continue to work to tame the chaos and reach out with any questions and ideas you have. Thank you again from the entire Hustle Fund team and the Atono team as well.
Thank you, everybody.